learning vocabulary words can be one of the most humanizing things you can do. As crazy as that is. I mean, there's a thing in when you're studying for the GRE, it's called the Graduate Record Exam, and it's what you have to take to get into graduate school. And if you take the test, oftentimes there's preparatory books that you can use. One of the more well-known ones is the Princeton Review to Cracking the GRE. In there, they have a concept that they offer called a Joe Bloggs attractor. Now, Joe Bloggs attractor is a word that people think they know but are often incorrect, at least by formal official standards. Okay? And so, yeah, some of this really sounds very snotty, but it shows you the power that language has in a lot of ways, and how the only reason that some people don't feel empowered in language is that they prefer the problem to the solution. There are many smart people out there who could be really studying words, and I mean reading the dictionary, carrying around flashcards of high-level vocabulary words, and really trying to learn words so as to be able to read and read more effectively, read more accurately, to celebrate the fact that words are the remnant of other people who were here. Anytime you see a word that you don't know, realize that there were speakers who you hadn't met who had thought that there were words that were relevant that maybe you hadn't yet discovered as relevant. You can't see the world other than in the terms of the terms that you use. It's so important to learn to develop vocabulary. If you don't develop vocabulary, you're lost. Just, I guess, cussing and swearing and making recourse to all kinds of cliches. You want to be able to have resources for you when you try to speak, and you can't do that without carefully developing, cultivating your vocabulary. It takes time. It takes patience. I grew up on a farm. I was a simple farm kid. I did not grow up in any way with lots of high-level vocabulary. That came from lots of hard study, and it was afterward that I realized how invaluable it was. At any rate, I want to go back to this Joe Bloggs attractor. It's really kind of BS. I mean, I do feel there's so much sympathy I have for those people who think all this stuff is a bunch of BS, and I agree. Look, I agree. What are you gonna do though? What are you gonna do? Seriously, I'm not kidding you, man. What are you gonna do about it? Um, so let me give you an example of how much BS it is, and then I'm going to throw you again to, well, what are you going to do about it? Okay, so if you want to give examples of Joe Bloggs attractors, and these are the ways that people discriminate on whether or not someone is going to get into graduate school or to get a lot of money, free ride. I mean, to get a really good score on the GRE, if you have good letters of recommendation and you have degrees from, places in certain areas with certain grade point averages, there's other things, but you also have to do well on the GRE to get real money, okay, to get a full ride or anything like that. And people study for years. They spend 2 or 3 years absolutely prepping out for this exam, okay? A Joe Bloggs attractor would be, I'm going to give you 2 examples, condone and remedial. What do those words mean? Remedial, condone. See, it's funny, the word remedial, many people think they know, and they would say it's something like bad or slow or underdeveloped or something like that. No, remedial comes from the word remedy. It means corrective. Yeah, it's funny. See, that's a Joe Bloggs attractor. Another one is condone. If you ask most people what does the word condone mean, many people will say the word condone means advocate or champion for. No, no, no. Condone means kind of look the other way. Not really, not attend to what should have been attended to. It's to neglect attention to. And so when you start to get at that, well, immediately we're left with, now that doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, somebody gets to tell you what a word means. So imagine there's 30 people in a room and they all use the word remedial, but they all think it means dumb or slow and they all agree upon it. Who is the GRE? Who is the Princeton Review to tell them that remedial actually comes from remedy and it means corrective? Well, you know what? The people who are doling out the money, that's who. And when you start to realize it that way, the people who are doling out the money, they're not just doling out the money because they see it in their interest. Many times, these are people who see it in the best interest of civilization for people to open to language, to open to history, to really learn to study vocabulary words, to get into words, to celebrate them. Words are absolutely free, and check this out. You can produce the most amazing stories, create anything with zero production cleanup afterward. No post-production cleanup. You can create statements that are relevant for a one-time shot. They can be witty, creative, and there's no mess afterward. The amount of digital trash, the amount of data junk and computer hardware junk, it's really wild to think for many, many thousands of years, people were satisfied, at least to some extent, with stories. I think we still live in stories. We still live in language. But the kind of barbarism that's on the rise, one of the things that's fun to look at is the letters home during the Civil War, and then the letters home during the Gulf War. These Civil War letters were absolutely beautiful. They were like, "My darling, we awoke at dawn and had breakfast together and shared in solidarity as we anticipated the battle awaiting us. And I thought of you at all points, and the glow in the sunset, it reflected your radiance, blah, blah, blah." I mean, they were just beautiful letters. And these were just general people out in the street. These weren't your average, these were not professor types. These were not intellectual types. These were just guys in the army. The letters home from the Gulf War, these letters, again, some of them were beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I've seen things on it. There's been really reports on it, on the decay of the meaning of letters. But yeah, some of the letters home from the Gulf War were like, "Shit, man, it is hot. I mean, really hot. And yeah, this sucks. And what the hell? Hope we're home soon. Miss you." When you start to think about it, it's to see that one of the world's greatest treasures can't be bought. One of the world's most vital resources cannot be sold. It's words. Words are the most magic-making capacity you could create. The way that you could capacitate yourself, grow yourself. You want to grow a self worth wanting? Go find high-level vocabulary words, study them, study them, study them, and realize that what you're doing is letting other minds enter into you. Those words are not just words on the paper. Those are evidence. They're like an imprint. They're footprints and signatures of other minds that found important distinctions in the world, and those distinctions were meaningful enough for them to name and find useful and maybe even live by. Tons of people are caught living by tiny little life scripts because they don't have the resources to create it. To create alternatives. They don't see other possibilities. Their languages reflect the possibilities of their world. And if you think I'm sitting on some pedestal and I'm giving you some highfalutin stuff, that's really absurd. I think you're preferring the problem to the solution. Many people, the more that they start to study words and they start to see that words have histories and the way that words have been transformed and the way that words are relations between you and other people. Language itself is a cosmic mystery that's come home to roost in the human, and it's really, maybe 100, but tens of thousands of years old. And as it became literate, it became very, very potent and distilled and really amazing transformations happened as people began to imagine things heard as visible. That is, when you could suddenly imagine that what was said could be seen, that was quite a transformation. I mean, sound has no veneers, no surfaces, no walls. You can't grab a sound. Sounds don't sit still. But when you write a word, there it is. And then what happens is once you learn to read and write, that then doubles back and affects your speech. It's a long, complex socio-historical process by which the minds that we all have now have become what they are. And it's only in a literate society that someone can be illiterate. In a wholly oral society, there's no such thing as literacy and illiteracy. There's only just human consciousness. With that said, please go study some words. They're valuable, they're powerful, they make a difference. Thanks.